Okay, so hello, I'm Rebecca Godfrey of CBRE Tourism and Leisure Group, and I'm here to introduce today's Zoom call with the Rhubarb Collective. The Rhubarb Collective is Chris Hughes of BC Hughes, Fran Hohal, also of CBRE Tourism and Leisure Group, Shannon Guillen of the Travel Corporation, Jill Vandal of the Tourism Company, and Amanda Joplin of GSM Project. I don't see her yet, but we're a group of tourism professionals who've come together to create this forum for open discussion on the current crisis in the Canadian tourism industry. Um, and I just want to remind you that these webinars are being recorded and they'll be uploaded to the website rhubarbcollective.com. So now I'm very pleased to introduce our special guest today. Susan Judd is manager of Heeman's, a London-based greenhouse and garden center, and she's co-founder of Ride the Bine, a locally guided beer, wine, and cider tour company. And she's also on the board of the Southwest Ontario Tourism Corporation, otherwise known as SWATC or RTO1. Susan was named one of London's top 20 under 20 in their 20s, sorry, in 2019. She holds a degree in management and organizational studies, specializing in consumer behavior, and a diploma in not-for-profit management from Western. So she's here today to talk to us about rebuilding audiences in a new tourism landscape. So please welcome Susan Judd. So Susan, let's start by talking about those businesses that you own and manage. Can you describe them in a little more detail for us?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much for the introduction. So I'll start with my full-time role right now. I am the front-end manager at Heeman's. We are a greenhouse and garden center, strawberry farm, cider.
Uncle just
So that role I stepped into about a year and a half ago. My husband's family has been in that business for the last 55 years. So it's a third generation family owned farm. And so we focus on growing and selling annuals, perennials, trees and shrubs. My husband and his father also specialize in growing strawberries and raspberries on the farm and pick those 5 months of the year. And my husband and I just recently added cider to our list. So we now make and sell hard apple cider on our property as well. So really, Heeman's has become, we're just outside of London city limits. So we're just east of the airport. And as such, have really become a mini getaway and destination for people, not only from the London area, but we are getting more and more people from the GTA, Goderich, Sarnia, Windsor, and all around. So that's kind of my full-time role right now. And my side hustle, as it were, is Ride the Bine. So I grew up in Norfolk County. I fell into the wine industry at age 22, just working behind a tasting bar, which turned into a full-time marketing and events role. And after answering multiple emails of saying, no, we don't have wine tours here, no, we don't have wine tours here, I finally decided that it was time. So myself and another homegrown Norfolk girl started Ride the Bine, which really the thought behind it was just promoting and getting people excited about what was in their own backyard. So Ride the Bine is changing all the time. So we operate small group experiences out of Norfolk County. We're also relaunching London now that we've got everything in place here. We're looking to launch Hamilton, Lake Erie North Shore potentially in the future, and up near Huron shores and that area as well. So yeah, we're just we're kind of riding the COVID wave, as it were, of people just being really excited to get out and support local businesses and see what's actually around them.
Yeah, well, certainly local is a key theme here for you, from what I can see. And one of the things that really stuck in my mind when we first chatted was how you were able to act swiftly in the face of change, and particularly at the nursery. So obviously, people know with stores closed and so on, there's a really renewed interest in eating local, and you've had to make some pretty pivotal pivots as the government has rolled out the reopening plan. Can you talk a little bit about those pivots, those experiences?
Absolutely. So Heeman's actually fell under the farming category. So technically speaking, we are never forced to be closed from a retail point of view. On March 17th, we made the decision as a business to close our doors, and on March 18th opened our retail online. So a business who we had done 0 sales online went from our day one on March 18th, gearing up for, just to give everybody an idea of what our business looks like. We typically do 60, it used to be a bigger number, but it's about 60% of our business happens in the month of May. So for the entire year, all of that is kind of condensed into May. So we knew we were going to have to really give it our all for online sales, because at that time we didn't know when we would be able to open or what that would look like. So we were able to pivot, and by our peak season in May, we had a few thousand items online. We had never had to count a flower, before, not really, or know exactly how many of each color we had. And to give you an example, we have about 21 colors of violas alone. So that was an interesting and unique challenge. But by middle of May, which is our peak season, we were booking 3 days in advance for 715 curbside pickup time slots a day. So we were running 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We were accepting 12 cars every 10 minutes in pre-booked time slots. And yeah, so managed to be able to do a lot of the business that we usually do in May. We didn't quite get to the full amount, which would have been, I think, more challenging just logistics wise than we could really manage at that point. But we're really proud with what we were able to accomplish, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. So that change to going exclusively online, what kind of resources did you look to help you with that?
Yeah, so we had to build up our teams in basically every area. We have about 27 full-time staff. And over the summer, traditionally, we hit a peak just over 100 people that we employ to kind of get us through the busiest times of the year. This was an interesting experience because we needed a lot of web design and supports from the technical side of things to really make this happen. So conveniently, in the family, we actually have 2 software developers. And so one of those being an uncle of Tom's, my partner, he actually agreed to design and write a program that could rip all of the information that we were getting from online orders and create custom forms that were then distributed to our 12 different areas that would be pulling orders. Because we were dealing with fresh product, we had to make sure we were pulling orders only, sometimes a few hours in advance. And with 12 different areas, including hard goods and perennials and shrubs and, all of our different types of annuals, including veggies, which people were going crazy for. We had to make sure they had a format that they could actually read all of the orders that they got specifically. So not only did we have to work through probably for 60 days straight, Peter, who was doing this development for us, had to tweak and change something every single day to make it work. And the same thing happened on our online website. You know, we were changing things daily to try and make sure that they were going to work for us, because when we made mistakes, they were usually big mistakes. So we might have seen an extra, we had to scale up from maybe 300 to 400 people a day to 500. And if we made a mistake, sometimes we wound up at 700 or 800 when we weren't meaning to. So all of those things were coming into play. But not only did we have resources, really, we invested from a business standpoint on the technical side. We then had to bring on our typical staff, so our seasonal staff, to then pull those orders and pick those orders and fill them and get them on carts, and then also bring them out to people's vehicles. So
coordinating.
Coordinating all that, and working with students who had never seen or never had to know the name of plants, and then expect them to pick and make sure we had all the right things it was fun, but a little bit challenging at times, I have to admit.
I can imagine. So let's talk a bit about your customers. So how would you describe the typical guests, like the small groups that ride the Bine tours versus your traditional customer at Heeman's?
Absolutely. So with Ride the Bine, we were actually quite surprised and very wrong with who our typical customer was going to be. We definitely thought it would be a lot of visitors and perhaps younger people, just based on, you know, who was asking the bachelorette side of things, and those that are typically known to be on wine tours. We were very pleasantly surprised that 50% of our guests are local and returning locals. Actually, we get a ton of return traffic, again, which we were not expecting people to return to Ride the Bine. We thought it would be someone would experience some local stops with us and then be on their way. But we have lots of locals who have been on 2 or 3 experiences with us, which was great to see, and really of all ages. So we get lots of different groups out celebrating. We are used for celebrations a lot. So whether it's a 60th birthday party or a retirement party, or just friends who might have people visiting from Toronto and so want to get out and do something and maybe get away from the kids, we really see all different age groups and men and women together and separate and celebrating all sorts of things. So it's really exciting to see that as well, because in small town Ontario, 19-year-olds aren't particularly well known for wanting to learn about wine. And we've really seen young people interested in not just, you know, enjoying a beverage, but actually learning about it. So that's been really cool to see. From Heeman's, I would say traditionally, if you were to think about your average gardener, that would probably be who is visiting us. More recently, in the last 5 years, I would say we've really changed just the mix of demographic that we're bringing in, and also, you know, who's coming from afar. Houseplants are definitely a very popular thing that we have kind of ridden the wave on. So we bring in houseplants weekly to meet the demand of what people are looking for. And we really see, especially in the winter, you can see how our demographics have changed, because in the winter we really didn't do any business. Last winter we started doing yoga in our tropical greenhouse to get people kind of out of the snow and ice and into some nice warm, you know, with the birds chirping and everything else. So we see a lot of young parents coming in to join us and just enjoy. We do have a coffee bar on site as well. So just enjoying the space that way. And definitely, this might be answering one of our next questions, but definitely with COVID, we're seeing, you know, people who have never put a shovel in the ground really interested in enjoying their own spaces. And so that brings them out to us. So again, we see a huge range in age groups, as well as just you know, everyone and anyone who's interested in coming out to garden. From a fresh produce side of things, we also offer, we pick strawberries 5 months of the year, which means we offer some treats, so strawberry sundaes and things like that, which also bring out a really strong family dynamic. So we get friends from all sorts of places in London, Toronto, you know, who have made it somewhat of a tradition to come visit us. And I will say, finally, I think probably our most diverse population that we see and welcome to Heeman's is at our Pick Your Own. We do Pick Your Own for typically 2 to 3 weeks of the year. And this year we were able to offer Pick Your Own in a safe environment as well. I just had to have a massive space for people to come to, but we were able to manage that this year. And we, again, see all age ranges and people from all sorts of demographics in London joining us because it's a really excellent family activity and is a little bit more cost effective than a lot of the other activities you might have or will be able to do. And is just something that I think, especially for communities who really have that strong food preserving culture, or just cook a lot at home, we see a lot of different demographics that will come out and join us for that as well.
That's great. So obviously you were pivoting quite a bit before this, adding new experiences based on the different markets that you hadn't expected to come. Are there specific things that you've done from an experience, a guest experience standpoint, to attract these new markets that are coming?
So one of the things that we've done in the past and didn't really think we were going to get the opportunity to do this year just because of the scale was we did food trucks on the farm. So we would host, it started out as a one-day event with about 8 to 9 food trucks, turned into a 2-day event, and each day we would welcome 12 to 13 food trucks on site. And that would, if you Googled us at that time, there would be a nice little red traffic stop outside of Heeman's because we were lucky that so many people really enjoyed and came back to that experience. So we would see a few thousand people a day on the farm for that. And we know food is the great equalizer. And so that's what we get really excited about at Heeman's, is that, you know, everybody can come together and enjoy food.
Right.
And so we didn't want to lose that. And so what we would decided to do, and actually just launched it yesterday, we're doing 9 weekends of food trucks. So we're welcoming 2 to 3 food trucks Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the next 9 weeks to try in hopes to really lengthen out and thin out the amount of people who are trying to come at one time onto the site. Still to support the restaurant industry in that way, because you know, one of the first things that popped into mind when COVID happened was these folks in particular are going to struggle because I know the food truck aspect, if they don't have a bricks and mortar, it's really important to them. So we found a way to, you know, welcome. We have Big Jerk Chicken out of Kitchener, and he's just like such an amazing person. He usually brings a steel drum, and you know, there's such a cool vibe around that truck, and the Taste of India, and lots of different cultures coming together, and being able to enjoy those experiences was really important to us. So we found a way to manipulate it a little bit and create an experience that hopefully lots of people will still be able to come out and enjoy. Beyond that, in terms of actual experiences, we haven't planned for anything just yet because our space becomes fairly tight in the fall and winter with our fall and winter offerings. So we do porch packages with our homegrown mums, and then we go into Christmas. So we actually are taking away certain experiences because of COVID. We typically offered, last year we offered 101 workshops on site. So we do that over the course of about 5 weeks, and we would do wreath making and urn stuffing and different things like that. So what we've decided to do instead is just make a whole bunch more base urns, and then provide people with a safe space to be able to decorate their own. So we've talked about some different experiences we'll be able to offer there. But it will really just kind of, we're fighting to get back to what people are used to getting at Heeman's, which is the coffee bar and those types of things. So we're really working to create those spaces back again, to welcome people back to those spaces.
Interesting. Interesting too with the food trucks. So it sounds like it's a pretty culturally diverse in terms of what kind of food you're bringing. Is that, and certainly something that a lot of companies are putting concerted efforts into is really introducing more diversity into their marketing and experiences as a way to attract markets and ensure people really see themselves in the products and services they offer. Is that something that resonates with you?
Absolutely. I think it's something that personally I have lots of work to do on that front, and I think we always will, to just try and make sure that not only our offerings but how we're promoting and what people see is reflective of that. Because in London we are really lucky to have some amazing food, and from all different cultures. And to be honest with you, like my favorite foods in London are from a lot of cultures that we work with on the farm, but not necessarily people will interact with on a daily basis. So our team, our picking crew who works with us on harvesting strawberries and raspberries for 5 months, are all actually local people. And so we do have a diverse group of folks that are coming to work with us, but don't necessarily, they don't engage with the public at Heeman's often. And so that's one thing that we definitely know that our business relies on it, but people don't necessarily know exactly who's picking the fruit or, those stories behind it. So I definitely think there's a massive opportunity to tell those stories and talk about the types of relationships we have with our employees, because some of our longest employees that have been at Heeman's have some pretty crazy stories and are from all over the world. So they're some of my favorite people to work with because they have just such a long history with Heeman's and have so many great stories. But I think it's definitely, especially from just like a front-facing and customer-facing perspective, I think it's important to note that we might know what we hold dear and what our story really is, but that might not be what the story people see is. And so that's really, I think, important. And with Ride the Bine and Heeman's, I think we have lots of work to do to make sure that we showcase that in an authentic but meaningful way, so that people can actually see what the nuts and bolts of our industries are.
Oh, that's great. It's ongoing, right? It's evolving, as you said, but looking for those opportunities sounds like something that you're invested in.
Absolutely.
So the other thing is just in terms of wellness, we've seen a lot of investment in the wellness industry since the pandemic. Has that impacted your business as well?
So wellness is an interesting term. We at Heeman's actually worked with and continually to work with an individual who flies all over the world to look at farmers markets in particular. And so the one thing that really resonated with me and what he left us with, it was probably about 8 months ago, was he said, you're a wellness business, right? That's the question that he posed to us. And I don't think as a retailer or even as, floriculturalists or horticulturalists or any of those things, that's not something that we would have perhaps named ourselves as. And, we don't sell soaps or trinkets, or we're not in the spa world. So I think that the traditional thoughts behind wellness are so different now, because it all comes down to you know, the self-care movement and how people spend their time and where they spend their time. And so with Ride the Bine, and even with Heeman's actually, one of my personal passions is agritourism and agriculture, and really getting people excited about what that means and how those industries are really kind of, our arms are wrapped around every single community in Canada. And so what I get excited about with wellness is, from a Ride the Bine perspective, it's, you know, those are afternoons that you don't have to worry about timing or planning, or it's just a time that you can come together with friends and family and enjoy what's locally crafted, and in moderation, very good for wellness. So I think that's really how we look at it, from that side of things, because we're definitely not promoting, you know, binge drinking or anything like that. It really has a focus on education, and getting to know the stories of the people behind the businesses. And from Heeman's, I would say the exact same thing. You know, it's we just redid our mission, vision, and values, and our one of our statements is to make our place your happy space. So it really is about creating a culture of safety and inclusion, and making a place that people can come that is not only physically warm and inviting, but also just when people come can feel relaxed and enjoy what we have to offer. So plants are a huge part of that. And the food aspect, again, is a huge part of that, just to be able to come and know who is growing what they're bringing home.
Awesome. Well, I still have tons of questions, but I do want to open it up in case any of our audience has specific questions that they'd like to ask you.
For sure.
I have one, Susan. Just in terms of your ability to pivot, you have obviously had a lot of technical changes there, technology changes and going online and so on. Do you see these things as now becoming a permanent part of your business plan and increasing, or do you see changes in your overall business plan that you probably incorporate because of switches on COVID?
Absolutely. I think the online part of our business will never be what it was in May of 2020. And I'm personally thankful for that. But what I think we really did have to accomplish during that time was being forced into something that was, I think, inevitable, was that, you know, people love to view things before they come out to visit us, whether that be the cider that we offer or a rare houseplant that we might have in stock. And so what this allowed us to do was really understand what our needs are and how people like to shop with us online, so that now we're doing a complete revamp. We can actually do that in a more meaningful way, perhaps a more restricted and limited way, but definitely something that will allow people to engage with us in a different but sustained way, for sure.
Has that changed your marketing techniques based on what you've learned about your customers?
A little bit, yes. Especially the houseplant phenomenon is fascinating, and we will bring in some rare plants. And so by having an online platform, we have to be, right now, it doesn't actually connect in with our point of sale. So that's one of the hurdles that we're trying to overcome right now, because it's quite tricky to have split inventory. And so what we're looking to do is actually build out a website that can have that functionality in with a POS system. So that's one thing, a massive thing that's on our list right now, to allow us to better handle and cope and have people have access to basically everything online that they do in store. But from a marketing perspective, you know, we had some fairly expensive rare plants that were kind of sitting at the greenhouse for a little while. And as soon as we were able to put them on an online platform, people purchased, like we couldn't keep them in stock. So it's just interesting to see the difference of, you know, they could come and purchase them in person before, but because they could view them online, and whether people were sharing it or, you know, it was hitting the right places, specifically on Instagram for houseplants. They were selling out faster than we could even get them online. So, yeah.
Yeah, that visual content.
Mm-hmm.
Donna had a question. What financial arrangement did you have with the food truck vendors?
That's a great question. I know we were a preferred place to come for our food truck event, because we literally had no charge for the first couple of years, because Will really had no idea how many people were going to show up. And in terms of food trucks, that's probably unheard of, and at least for most events. But what we really wanted to do was, you know, support those people, because we know lots of them personally. Lots of them are from Southwestern Ontario and do great things. So it wasn't our intention to ever make money directly from the food trucks. It was more of a periphery benefit of just having that many people on site, and enjoying our space. And that's really what it's all about at Heeman's. And so with the food trucks, last year, because it was a bigger event, we offered more space and tables and seating and some live music. So all we asked for was, I believe, $50 from each food truck to help cover those direct costs. And we did something similar this year, and it was by choice, so we didn't force them into it. I think if we were to say, you know, we'd like $250 to secure your spot, most of the food trucks who have been with us know the crowds that come out to see them, so they wouldn't hesitate. But we haven't actually chosen to go down that route yet, because that's not really our goal of it. If it's not a busy Friday, we don't have to feel bad, and they haven't paid us anything directly to be there. So it's really their time that they're putting in, which makes it a lot easier, both on our end and I think on theirs, for the choice that they're making and how many people are coming out.
Well, half an hour passed very quickly. Susan, I really appreciate your taking the time to chat with us today. That was excellent. Some really great content and tips for people thinking about how to attract new markets and how to get to know those markets, and really that focus on being authentic and open to new experiences and so on. So I really appreciate your time. And I just wanted to put in a plug as well. Our next Rhubarb Collective chat is on August 27th, when Fran Ho-Hall will take us through Coast to Coast reopening. Okay.
How did the summer pan out?
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.